Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome to the Racing Post GAA Postcast. I'm your host Jack McCarran, filling in for David Jennings, who's away on holidays this week. On today's show, we'll be taking a quick look back at Galway's epic win over Tip last weekend, and we'll also be previewing Sunday's All-Ireland semi-final between Cork and Waterford. But first, the usual quick-fire questions, and in the firing line today is an Ardscoil Rish man and a Dare man, but most importantly, a Limerick man. Declan Hannon, welcome to the Postcast. How are you doing?
Pretty good knowing yourself.
Yeah, not too bad. And Damien Fitzgerald from Paddy Power is also on hand with all the latest betting and hopefully some juicy tips for us. Anyway, we'll get right into it with the quick fire questions. Declan, number one for you this week is the best hurler currently playing the game in your opinion.
I'd have to go with Joe Kenning, especially after his performance last weekend and getting Galway into the final.
And I'm sure you've shared the field with Joe on a number of occasions. What is so good about him in your opinion?
I suppose his temperament seems to be second to none. You know, even the first half mightn't have been in the game as much as he wanted, but when the chips were down and when they really needed him, I suppose he got the last 5 scores to get Galway over the line last again. So he's a massive player for Galway and has been for the last 10 or 15 years from underage up along. So look, he's so consistent and everything like that. He's just a phenomenal player. Yeah,
there's no arguments from me on that one. Number two, the best bet you've ever landed on GAA or any other sport?
I was at the Cheltenham November meeting there a couple of years ago, and I remember, never forget, it was back to a horse called Bold Henry, trained by John O'Neill, I think, and JP McManus owns it. So we went off around 20 or 25 to 1 and with a nice each way bet, and he came in. So I played for a few rounds that night anyway. And
you're into your horse racing, obviously, so you are.
Yeah, I follow it a bit. Yeah, it's a nice hobby anyway to have. You know, interested enough in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, number three, the best hurler you've ever played with at club, college or county level?
I suppose in our club there, I was lucky enough to play with Mark Foley for a couple of years. He was just kind of coming to the end of his career when I was starting out, so it was nice to get a couple of games in with him. Then you would like to call him Galvin and Ronan Maher from Mary I as well, who are just unbelievable players as well. And I mean, I think Ronan has a big future in the Tipperary jersey.
Okay, number four. Now, obviously, Limerick under-21 side looking very good this year. But which of the current panel that hasn't yet made the step up to senior level are you most looking forward to playing with?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about it. There's a lot of them who've already, I suppose, played senior with Limerick and have been there for a couple of years. But there's a man, Colin Ryan, he's from Palace Green. He's midfield at under-21 this year. He was on the panel with the senior strike this year, but didn't get much game time. He's a serious player and a good prospect coming up again. So he'd be one man I'll be keeping an eye out for.
Okay, and your final quick-fire question then, Declan. If you were having an anti-post bet on next year's championship, where would your €50 be going?
I suppose I have to be Limerick and that. But I don't know, maybe Tyrone in the football, they seem to be coming good this year. And, you know, I suppose they'll be up against Dublin, but there'll be one bet, I suppose, to give you a run for your money anyway. Okay,
not a bad one. Damien, your turn now, and number one for you is, what was the biggest bet struck with Paddy Power last weekend, and who was it on?
The biggest single bet we took last weekend was 14 grand on Dublin to win the match at 1-14, which obviously short enough price, but took the grand off us. In general, last week wasn't great now looking at it for us, with all the teams in the football quarterfinals been winning very easily and beating the handicaps, so we've had better weekends.
I listen to you and Paddy telling DJ this answer every week, and I wonder who on earth are these lads putting 14 grand on Dublin to beat one? It's beggar's belief for me, but obviously some people fancy winning €1,000. Number two, biggest loser for ye in the Player of the Year market in both codes this year?
Our biggest loser, first on the hurling side, he'll be playing on Sunday, is Jamie Byrne. He's currently around 25 to 1, so definitely has a chance. And if Waterford were to win the All-Ireland, he'd be one of the lads that'd definitely be up there. And then on the football side, people probably backing with their heart over their head, it may be a little bit, and kind of he's been getting a lot of notes in the last couple of weeks. Stephen Cluxton will be our biggest loser at 40 to 1. Been a lot of talk about him over the last few weeks, obviously with his championship record, and I can see why people are backing it all right. If Dublin were to win the All-Ireland, he'd probably be there or thereabouts.
And your final quick-fire question then, Damien. Any anti-post bet you had at the start of the season that you're particularly excited about?
Just a simple one, I suppose. I had Kerry back to win the All-Ireland at 7-2 each way, and I still think they're going to win the All-Ireland. I know you can make arguments for everyone that's left in the football at this stage, but for me, I think Kerry have been the most impressive, and I think I'm going to be collecting on that, hopefully, anyway.
So you're feeling confident?
Yeah.
Just on that question to you as well, Declan, have you any anti-post bets still alive in the championship this year?
I don't know, but I'd go along with Kerry in the football. I think they're going well all year and haven't really been tested yet, but they seem to be very strong in fairness in this year now.
Alright, well, we'll move on from that and we'll take a quick look back on Galway and Tip in the semi-final last weekend. We won't dwell on this for too long, as there's not a whole lot left to say about Joe's performance against Tip, but to borrow a phrase from American sport, he put the team on his back and carried them over the line. Galway's last 5 points all came from Joe's hurl. Declan, you mentioned that you think he's the best player playing the game currently. What did you make of his performance last weekend, and do you think he's a cert for Player of the Year at this stage?
Yeah, look, his performance was unbelievable last weekend, especially getting the last 5 scores of the game to win the game for Galway. In terms of the Player of the Year, I suppose I know he's favoured, but there's a lot of other people going with a chance. I think Conor Whelan in Galway as well is flying it. I think he's the one with 20 points from play scored in the 4 or 5 games he's played in Championship. I think an outside bet maybe for the Player of the Year would be Kevin Moore. He's very consistent as well. I suppose a lot depends on how Waterford get on this weekend. But I think he's in with a bit of a shout anyway. I think he's a nice price for it. And
Damien, could you give us a quick show of betting on the Player of the Year in the hurling there, please?
Yeah, Joe Canning has 8-11, Conor Whelan second favourite 15-2, Austin Gleeson and Conor Lehan at 8s, and then 14's Bar.
And if you were to have a bet on it yourself now at this stage, is Joe a cert, or would your money be going somewhere else?
I think in the aftermath of the match last weekend, I was kind of thinking he was a cert, but as the week has gone on, I think you could make an argument definitely on the Galway side. Like, if Conor Whelan, Conor Cooney, Garrod McInerney, if any of them were to win man the match in the All-Ireland final, I think they'd have a really strong shout for it. And obviously you've got players from other teams now. If Cork or Waterford were to win it out, there'd be a different set of players that you'd be giving a shout to.
Yeah, and just on Tip as well, after all the rumours and controversy that surrounded Tip this year, when it came down to it, they still looked like a team capable of winning an All-Ireland last weekend. Damien, would you be confident of them bouncing back late next year and contending, or do changes need to happen?
I think Tip, they're always going to be contenders. They have a lot of players who are at the very top of the game and are as good as that are out there, like looking at their full forward line, Pádraig Maher, players like that. I think they probably do need to find a few players in the league next year just to kind of strengthen the panel a bit. If you're looking at the end there, towards the end of the Galway match, they didn't really have a lot to come off the bench, and I think they're going to have to find a few young players next year. But they'll always be there or thereabouts, Tip, and they're going to be contenders next year.
Declan, Tipperary, what did you make of their performance last week overall, and can you see them contending again next year, or, as Damien said, do they need to find a few new players?
I suppose every year teams will be looking to find new players, but you can never write Tipperary off, you know. There's some fabulous players, especially their forward line there. They can win a match any given day. They'll definitely come back from it, yeah. The performance last weekend, I suppose, I think Galway did very well to win the game, because from watching from the sidelines in, I mean, Galway seemed to be a bit more jittery and all that, but they still got over the line eventually. I think it was the Tip only scored 3 or 4 points from play in the second half, which they're a bit disappointed with. But look, I think Galway deserved winners last weekend, and they're worthy favourites for the All-Ireland. That's it, Tip. I don't think they'll be down for too long.
Okay, now lads, and lastly, before we go to a quick break, Declan, you mentioned Conor Whelan as a possible contender for Player of the Year. Damien, I think he's favoured for Young Player of the Year. Could you just give us a show of betting on that? And if you were having a bet, who do you fancy for the Young Hurler of the Year?
Well, Young Hurler of the Year at this stage, it looks like a bit of a two-way market. We've Conor Whelan 1-2 and Mark Coleman 2-1. Both of them have obviously been brilliant all year. They're probably both strong contenders for Player of the Year itself. I think it depends who wins in the All-Ireland. I think if Galway win, Conor Whelan will get it, and if Cork were to come through and Coleman keeps up the way he's playing, like he's gone in the match in one game in Munster and he was nominated the other 2 days, so you can't do much better than that. So I think if Cork were to win the All-Ireland, Mark Coleman would probably get it.
And Declan, would you go along with that?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I mean, Mark Coleman has been phenomenal all year for Cork in his first championship year. Yeah, it does depend, I suppose. If Cork win this weekend, it's a toss-up then in the All-Ireland final between Conor Whelan and Mark Coleman. So, interesting. It'll be interesting to see this weekend how they get on.
Okay, lads, well, we'll leave it there so for part one, and we'll be back after the break where we'll be previewing Waterford against Cork.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20, excludes shops, T's and C's apply. 18 plus, begambleaware.org.
Well, on Sunday in Croke Park, the second All-Ireland hurling semi-final takes place between Cork and Waterford. The winner obviously going on to play Galway. And Damien, if you could just give us a quick show of betting and the handicaps, please.
Yeah, the match betting is Cork 8-13, the draw at 9-1, Waterford at 7-4, Cork -2 is evens, handicap draw is 11-1, and Waterford +2 is 10-11.
Now, Declan, I think you have a unique viewpoint going into this game, looking at it, because in 2013 you obviously won the Munster title and went on to lose an All-Ireland semi-final, unfortunately for you. Cork are going into the same situation. What pressure did you feel from Limerick at the time? Was the layoff a factor, or was you just beaten by the better team and cleared on today?
I suppose the layoff was a factor. I don't think any of us had ever experienced winning the Munster Championship or getting ready for an All-Ireland semi-final. But geez, on the day they were just way ahead of us and were worthy winners that day. I think Cork had a similar kind of fate in 2014. They won Munster and went up to the All-Ireland semi-final against Tipperary and kind of didn't show up again. But I think they'll have learned from that. I was reading Anthony Nash did an article during the week, and that they went back to their clubs for a couple of weeks and kind of broke up the period running into the semi-final. So I think they'll have learned a lot from the last time they won Munster and went straight to the semi-final. And I say, well, we'll be better equipped at dealing with it anyway this time around.
I was actually living in Limerick at that time. I studied in UL, and I just remember the hype and buzz around the county was just incredible at the time. Did you notice that? Did you feel the pressure, or did you just try and keep your minds at ease? Because it seems in Cork at the minute there's the same buzz and hype around the team, and I wonder, with the young players they have, would they be affected by that, or were you affected by that?
I suppose looking back, we probably were. Like, I mean, it really took over the county there for a couple of months after winning the Munster Championship, and people were on a high. And it probably did take from our preparation, looking back from that. But I think Cork have enough experienced players who have played in All-Ireland semi-finals, and I'm sure they'll guide the young lads through, who seem to be very fearful in anything they're doing at all this year, and they're flying it. So it makes for a really exciting game on Sunday.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Cork and Limerick as well, and the hurling public just are crazy when the team is going well, so obviously it can get on top of you, I suppose. Just on Cork again, Damien, what has impressed you most about them this year? Has it been the new players that have been brought into the fold and really made a huge impact? Anything tactically in particular that's taken your eye? I seen Mark Ellis in the Irish Examiner this week was speaking about how they've gone to a more orthodox approach as opposed to a defensive approach they took up in the last couple of years, although they have been quite defensive as well this year. Anything in particular that's impressed you, Damien?
Well, I think like bringing in the new players like Coleman, Shane Kingston, Luke Meade, they've obviously added to the team. But the one thing about Cork that has impressed me a lot more this year than recently is their work rate is far higher than it has been for the last few years. They're really working off the ball now. I'd say their hook and block stats are way up on where they were last year. And just once they're having the work rate, they do have the hurlers. Like, that forward line has so much danger in it. So if you can get them working, they're always going to cause teams problems. And I suppose they have that old Cork thing back now. They have the confidence, the kind of arrogance that Cork always had. So I think just that work rate, everything comes from that. And when they're working harder, you can see the results.
And Declan, anything in particular that's impressed you by Cork this year?
Yeah, I suppose the new lads who came in have really freshened things up for them, and their approach. I mean, Cork are definitely better when they're attacking instead of playing a defensive game, and in all their games so far this year they've put up phenomenal scores, you know. I think their new players like Darcy Fitzgibbon as well, who's been really really inspirational for them and influential in all the games he's played. So if he has a good game on Sunday in Cork, he might be sniffing around for Young Player of the Year as well.
You must look at Cork yourselves down in Limerick and see how they kind of went out unheralded in last year's championship to Wexford and come back, win Munster and are on the cusp of an All-Ireland final now. Do you look at that from your perspective and think that you can go on and do the same thing next year with the good batch you have come through?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of demoralising when you're knocked out of the championship so early and you're watching Munster finals being played and all that. But yeah, I suppose there's similarities. There's kind of inconsistency in both Cork and Limerick over the past couple of years has been a factor anyway. But yeah, I mean, everyone starts the year on a level playing field and looks forward to it. But Cork has built up a lot ahead of steam now, and their confidence is sky high. And look, a Cork team like that is going to be very hard to beat. So look, I don't know. It's interesting the weekend how they'll manage that 5-week break and whatever. But yeah, it's tough to watch them playing when we beat them in the league quarter final this year, and kind of two roads went different paths for the rest of the summer. But yeah, it looked interesting for the match Sunday.
Damien, with Limerick's exciting under-21 team this year and over the last couple of years, what price would you give us on Limerick to win an All-Ireland in the next 5 years?
I think to be around evens, maybe a shade of odds on. Yeah, like you say, they have loads of players coming through, so I think they're definitely going to be contenders over the next 4 or 5 years. I suppose just whether things fall right for them in the end, but they're going to be up there, yeah.
Okay, and enough on Cork for now. We'll just take a quick look at Waterford. Obviously, the big news coming out of late last night, I don't know if either of you saw the news late last night or this morning, but Ty de Burka, his appeal was not heard. He will miss Sunday's game. What kind of an impact will that have on Waterford, Damien? He's been such an important presence over the last number of years, and now he's going to be missing. It's probably Dara Fives they're saying is going to come in. Is that going to really affect the performance? Are they going to struggle without him? What do you think yourself?
I think it's absolutely massive. I think it's probably as big a miss as you can have at this stage of the season. Just to kind of do it by price, like Cork are 8-13 now with the Burka out. The price for this game would be about 5-6, 4-5 Cork if the Burka was playing. He's just such a massive part of how to play, and it's very hard to replicate someone to play that role with just a week's training. Like, you can put someone in there, but they're not going to have the experience that Ty de Burka has just covering across the full back line. I think it's going to be very, very hard to replicate, and he's a massive, massive amount of loss for Waterford.
Declan, I'd just like to get your thoughts on this whole situation. First of all, the whole idea of a sweeper, or whatever you want to call it. When you see people criticising counties using sweepers or defensive tactics in order to make the most of what they have at their disposal, what do you think? If you say for example, if Limerick were to win a Munster title and reach an All-Ireland final playing defensive hurling, or so to speak, I'm sure the people in Limerick wouldn't care one jot, and I'm sure it's the same in Waterford. So what do you think of the so-called new tactics that we see in the game?
Yeah, I suppose the last few years it's become extremely tactical. Like every team has different tactics going out, and I suppose Waterford have perfected the sweeper system, and look, it's got them to 3 All-Ireland semi-finals on the trot. So they're there again this year. It's just sort of getting close to getting to the All-Ireland final. Personally, I wouldn't be a fan of it. No, I prefer it. Like, obviously, if it was 15 or 15, but you have to kind of look at the opposition you're playing and the way they're going to set up and kind of try to counteract it. It makes for a more exciting game as well. I've seen Galway and Tip are prime examples. They kind of go out and hurl. There's no sweeper systems or them or defensive systems really. And you can see over the last number of years the games that they've put on for the public to watch. I think the weekend game will be totally different. It'll be a lot more compact and may not be as much scoring or goal opportunities as it was last game. Look, I wouldn't be a match fan of the sweeper system, but if it works, I mean, if it happened in Limerick and we won All-Ireland, we definitely wouldn't complain about it.
Yeah, he'd be dancing in the streets for about 6 years, I'd say, and there'd be no complaint. He'd retire on that one, absolutely. Another interesting point about Waterford this year is their use of the big man Maurice Shanahan. He's come on as a sub and made a huge impact in most games. If you were Derek McGrath, Declan, on Sunday, would you be starting with Maurice, or would you be keeping using him as a sub, bringing him on, making a big impact in the last 20 minutes and rising up the crowd?
Yeah, it's a tough one. To be honest, I'd leave them as they are, and I mean, I saw Derek McGrath did an interview a couple of weeks ago saying that was just part of their game plan was to have Morris come on in the last 15-20 minutes to kind of get the crowd worked up, as his brother Dan used to when he was playing, and his fist pumps and all that. So I don't think they'll start Morris, because they're kind of coming good at this time of the year, and it's been working when Morris comes on. He's always gotten a few scores for them, especially against Kilkenny then in the qualifier. He got 1, 2 or 3 that night when they came on. So I think I wouldn't be changing what's working for them to win it anyway. No.
Yeah, Damien, I was just looking at all the markets on paddypower.com there this morning before we started here, and I couldn't find Maurice Shanahan to score a goal and then fist pump in the face of a Waterford player or the Waterford fans. What sort of a price do you think you could give me on that? And because I think I'd make it my nap.
It's probably the same price I see to score a goal, to be honest. So
yeah, it's all the one really.
It is 17 to 10.
17 to 10. I'll take that any day of the week. Right, lads, I suppose we should start getting some predictions in, and we'll start off with a man of the match and first goal scorer predictions. We'll start with you, Damien. Where would your money be going for both of those markets?
We'll start off with first goal scorer. I reckon it'll be a tight game. There won't be many goals. You can see even no goal scorer 12-1. People might like to have a bet on that. But if I was at betting first goal scorer, I think I'd pick Seamus Harnedy. I think he'll probably play fairly close to goal. Big player, probably offers a little bit. It's something a bit different to the rest of the Cork forwards. A bit more of a physical presence, and I just think he'll be around the goal. And I think 9-1, he's worth taking a chance on. Man of the match, then I'm going to pick 2 players here because I can't decide between them, but they're both 25-1, so they're a bigger price. I'm going to pick Darragh Fitzgibbon, who, as Declan was mentioning earlier, has having a good year. I think this could be a real day from around midfield, and Mark Ellis as well, both of them at 25-1. I don't think it'll be a forward that gets man of the match in this game. I think it'll be tight enough, so 2 of them at 25s I'll pick out.
And Declan, for yourself, man of the match and a first goal scorer prediction?
Yeah, actually, I'd go with the 12-1 for no goal, to be honest now. The way Waterford set up, I don't think there'll be much goal opportunities. I think at 12-1 it's a nice bet there. There might be a first goal scorer, maybe Shane Bennett from Waterford. The last time they played in the Munster quarter-final or semi-final, there was only 1 goal, there was a scrappy enough goals on the same day, so 12-1 seems to be a good price. In terms of man of the match then, I think Jamie Byrne or Kevin Moore are kind of very solid all year. And I'd say like midfield is going to be where the match is probably won this weekend. So, Darragh Fitzgibbon maybe on Jamie Byrne will be whoever comes out on top of that, maybe Waterford or Cork come through. So Kevin Moore or Jamie Byrne. I'm not sure what price they are now, but that's where my money will be going. Anyway.
Do you have a price for them there, Damien?
Yeah, Jamie Barron is 18-1 and Kevin Moran is 22-1.
Yeah, I think that no goal score at 12-1 looks very juicy indeed. I might be having a bit of that myself. Just before we get your final match predictions and we go for our naps, is there any other bets either of you would like to mention that's taking your fancy this weekend? Any under or over points or under or over goals or anything in particular that either of you'd like to mention without giving away your naps? Damien?
I was just I think under goals is probably a decent bet. Under 2.5 goals is at 11-8, and I think that's probably decent. Probably be tight enough, and only 1 goal the first day, as Declan said, and I can't really see that much more this time. And
Declan, anything else you'd like to add before we get your final match prediction?
Yeah, maybe Mark Holman scores side. I think he scored in every game straight up there, so I don't know what price he is for that or if there's price for it. But
can you give him a price for that, Damien?
Yeah, it'll be going up on site shortly. I just put it up now, and this is finished. It'll be going up at 3-1.
3-1.
Yeah, so it might be an interesting bet.
Yeah, not bad at all. So final match predictions before we go for our naps, lads. Damien, who's going to win on Sunday, and then we'll go to you, Declan. So Damien first, please.
I think Cork are going to win. I thought they were going to win before the Burka news broke, but I think it even more now. I think I've been very impressed with Cork this year, and I really haven't been that impressed with Waterford, to be honest. I think Waterford would have to play a good bit better than they have so far this year to beat Cork, and I can't see that really. The main worry I'd have about Cork would be the 5-week break, but I think they'll get over that. Like as Declan said, the experience they had a couple of years ago probably helps. So Cork for me.
And Declan?
Yeah, I go the opposite. I think Waterford will win on Sunday. I think they're just coming into a bit of form, and they have the experience of being in Croke Park and All-Ireland semi-finals for the past number of years as well. I suppose we haven't even mentioned Austin Leahy. If he plays the way he can, he'll be a massive influence on Sunday. So Waterford, I'm going to pick for the weekend.
Okay, there you have it, lads. From the man himself, Declan Hannon, Waterford are going to win. Damien disagrees, but we'll see. I'll be the deciding vote, and I'll say a draw, just so no one really knows.
One of us will be right.
Exactly. Now, before we get to weekend naps, I'll just announce the competition winner from last week. Last week's winner was Anthony Byrne from London. You'll get £25 worth of free bets added to your Paddy Power account. This week's question: in what year did Limerick last contest an All-Ireland final? Simply tweet your answer with the hashtag Postcast to be in with a chance of winning.
And that the 2-point handicap could be obliterated.
Okay, lads. Nap time. Damien, what's your nap for Sunday's game?
I'm going to go with Cork to win by 6 to 10 points at 10-3.
10-3. Okay, and Declan?
I'd say my nap would have to be the under 2.5 goals. I think it's a safe enough bet for the weekend.
Yeah, and I'm going to concur with you there, Declan, because down in front of me I have under 2.5 goals at 11-8. So that's not much help to everyone if we wanted to do a little accumulator, but there you have it. We have the same. Maybe I'll go Austin Gleeson for man of the match just to change it up. 7-1. I think if Waterford are going to win, he's probably going to be man of the match. Anyway, lads, that's all we have time for this week. My sincere thanks to Declan and Damien for joining us on the Postcast. Don't forget to rate the Postcast, leave a review and subscribe on iTunes. And of course, don't forget to join us next week as well.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.